Welcome back to the Daughters of the Moon podcast. We're grateful that you can join us for another week.
We certainly are.
And we're excited today. We have Jenny Zakrzewski with us. She's from Starseed Academy. She's a master channeler, psychic teacher, and spiritual business mentor. Her mission is to help awaken souls to discover and master their psychic soul gifts, establish their premium Starseed business, and lead as the CEO of their soul empire. So, welcome, Jenny. We're excited to have you on our podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me, Kim and Barb. I'm so happy to be here.
So, can you tell us a little bit about how you got started on your journey to kind of where you are at the moment?
Yeah. Um, Spiritual awakening kind of journey or like business journey? What are you thinking?
Either.
Along your spiritual path, but with the
Yeah,
business mixed in there.
yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah. So I had I think, okay, so I think a lot of spiritual kind of souls, starseed souls, write into their soul contracts to have like kind of difficult starts to their lives. Like, I can't tell you how many people I've come across and worked with that have also had like, I had a very difficult childhood, like a lot of things in there that almost repressed my gifts, it feels like, um and looking back I can see now where the psychic gifts and the spiritual gifts were poking through the surface and creating havoc actually in quite a few areas of my life, but where I wasn't able to be open to that or free to that. I was raised in such a strict religious, almost like a religious kind of cult-like home. And all of that religious trauma generally tells anyone with these kinds of gifts that it's evil, it's bad, it's wrong. And it makes you turn away from that in so many ways, right? So for me, it was like I had such an open beginning, like an open, when I say open, I mean like open to spirit, experiencing things like clairaudience and hearing my angels and I just remember being a kid going to sleep at night and I would tune into like without meaning to, I would just start to hear this music, like music that wasn't there, no one else could hear. And it's like the little antennas in my ear chakras, which are just above your physical ears, were like picking up on some other signal, like some other world, it's like a radio, right? And I didn't understand a lot of that's just one example of many strange things that would happen. And as a kid, you think, oh, that's maybe everybody has that. And then you kind of grow up and realize, oh, okay, I see like what was happening there. So because of a lot of that difficulty, I feel like I shut things down for a really long time. And then I had a near-death experience and it blew everything kind of back wide open again. And I was on a path career-wise to be in the music industry. And I was, making albums and teaching singing and doing these contests and getting a lot of momentum behind it. And then I had this near-death experience and something changes about you. It's hard to say. It's like something, I don't know, something when you have that, you just something changes deep within and it's not immediate, but you see after that moment in your life how things go in a different direction. And I just like lost interest in pursuing what I was so passionate about and instead flipped to the seeker. I would spend hours on my laptop just researching, seeking knowledge. I don't know even what I was looking for, but I started down the rabbit holes of NDEs, near-death experiences, out-of-body experience, what happens when you die, what is the soul, like all of these things. And I was trying to find what I believed because that religious experience was so traumatic for me. I really didn't even like the word God anymore. And it was so hard for me to like figure out, well, what do I believe then? And so I spent a long time seeking and finding what felt comfortable for me and then something to start with that could evolve over time. And I started really just being so interested in the spiritual realms and the spiritual worlds. And I started talking to my guides, my spirit guides. Like, are you there? Like little tiny moments of like vulnerable, like, is anyone there? Is anyone listening? Which turned into like real experiences, visitations. Oh man, I just remember so many visitations in waking state, in dream state, visions, and I think clairaudience was one of my strongest, and I remember that as a kid too. So I think that was one of my ones that really came online early and strong. So hearing a lot of people responding to my thoughts, like in telepathy, I guess, and in all of these things that were happening. And I just got this nudge one day that I should start a YouTube channel. And I remember being really afraid of that idea, like very afraid to come out of the closet spiritually for all of the judgment. I think a lot of people feel that way. But I was very specifically into star seeds. Like I knew I was a star seed. That's even weirder. And, I was thinking all of this before it was mainstream. This was like 4 or 5 years ago now. And star seed wasn't a thing yet. No one was talking about that, right? But they just kept nudging me and nudging me. My guides kept nudging me and nudging me. YouTube channel, YouTube channel. A soul nudge is when you can't stop thinking about it. When every time you go to watch one of your favorite spiritual YouTubers, the way that I would hear these thoughts of like, but you could be sharing, but you have stuff to share, but you are just as, have just as much wisdom, have just as much experience. Like you need to start, your people are waiting for you to step into that light, step into that role and let yourself be seen. And after pushing back for about a year due to fear, I finally started my YouTube channel. And I remember the moment when I finally decided to do it, I was like doing my hair, looking in the mirror, and something was nudging me again and again and again. And I remember just speaking back to spirit, like, oh, like, okay, already. If I were to do a YouTube channel, what would I even call it? And then so clearly in my ear, Starseed Academy. I was like, what? And like that was the beginning of everything. I started YouTube and I allowed myself to be very real on there. Like I didn't edit myself. I didn't try to make myself be something that I wasn't. I was very much, I'm figuring stuff out. Is anybody else out there figuring stuff out? I wasn't putting myself up on a pedestal and I wasn't holding back. I was letting myself talk about the ups and the downs, the hard things I'm going through, the amazing experiences I'm having, like just being a real person on there. And that really resonated with people. And without even meaning to, I just built a community. And that community has become my OGs. They've followed me throughout my career and have always been there supporting me. And that's a business tip in case anybody here is listening is looking to build their own business, like long form content like that, like YouTube channels, podcasts, that's what builds community, right? That not the short little snippets on, TikTok and Instagram. It's like longer form content where you can really talk about things and people can really get to know you. That builds community. And that's what happened. I didn't even mean to do that. And then my community just started asking me for things. Like you're talking about how you're speaking to your guides and it's working. Can you speak to my guides? Like, can you do a reading? And I was like, oh, yes, I can. Oh, and so I was like, okay, wait a minute. They want things from me. Let me just listen to what they want. And they wanted readings and they wanted energy healings. I was a Reiki healer. And they wanted all of these different things to have time with me, like a one-on-one kind of session. And I was like, and so I started doing sessions and taking clients. And then they started asking me, like, well, wait a minute. Can you teach me to do what you do? Like, can I also talk to my own guides? And I was like, oh, yes, I can. And then I started a signature program called Psychic Light, where I teach people how to channel, written channeling, spoken channeling, trance channeling, becoming a master of the clairs. And then once people started to get really confident in their gifts, then they're saying, well, wait a minute. Can you teach me to build a business the way that you have? And I was like, oh, and that's like the final pillar that kind of went up in my business. And so I've got these two big pillars. Okay, well, if you're just starting out, let me help you discover what your particular soul gifts are and master those and get really confident. And when you're ready, let's come over to this pillar and build your soul empire. Your somebody else called it a sovereign, what did they call it? A sovereign enterprise, which I thought that was really cool. Your soul empire, your sovereign enterprise, like your way of unplugging from the matrix, the 9 to 5 programming and supporting yourself and getting your message out there. And it's shifting your timeline completely into this higher timeline. And so that's kind of like the two big pillars of Starseed Academy and a little bit about my journey there to that. And I mean, we're still rising.
That's amazing. And I think that's great because I find that like for us since we've been doing the podcasts and things like that, the more relatable you are to people, the more honest and true and authentic that you are, the more that your following grows because then people can actually relate to what you're talking about and aren't afraid to start asking you questions.
That's right.
So,
Yeah.
can you explain to any of the followers that don't know what a starseed is, what a starseed
That was
is?
going to be my question.
Good. Yes, I would love to. So it's not very complicated, actually. It's just really the idea that your soul, you believe that your soul, or you feel strongly that your soul has reincarnated, but not just on Earth, on other planets, right? Where you feel like you've had lifetimes as these other beings, maybe galactic, maybe angelic, maybe Lemurian or Atlantean or some kind of other, ancient civilization. But you either know it or you feel it or you have memories of it or you've had readings where people have unlocked that for you. There's a lot of ways to kind of come into that feeling. But I would say like starseeds specifically feel like they don't fit here. Like it's like a feeling of you look around at humanity, what humanity even is right now, and you're like, what are you all doing to each other? I do not understand how we can treat each other this way and how we can treat the environment this way and the planet this way. It's just it doesn't compute and it's so frustrating and it's really hard to feel like no one else cares that much about it. And it's this feeling of no one speaks your language. Nobody wants to go as deeply as you do into conversation. Everybody's all about Netflix and chill or go drinking on the weekends. And nobody wants to talk about the soul. And like it's very deep. A starseed has quite a deep side to them. And then the other thing, a real characteristic, and I remember this as a kid, you feel like you have this purpose, this greater mission for being here on Earth than just your life. Like, yes, you're here to learn and you're here to have a human life, obviously, but you've got this other feeling that feels quite urgent. And you're like, oh, I'm here to do something. I might not know what it is. I might not remember, but I know it's something like I'm here to help in some way. And that feeling becomes stronger and stronger and stronger the older you get. It can even cause anxiety. Like it's quite a strong, urgent feeling. I would feel it from my solar plexus, like pushing outwards, like, oh, like I've got to figure this out. Like I can't mess this up. If I get to my, life review at the end of this and I don't figure this out, I'm gonna be so disappointed in myself. It's right on the tip of my brain. What is it? That's a star seed. Like they just know they have a mission for being here. And the star seed mission, to put really simply, is to use your gifts in service to just the gifts that you have, the what makes you special, the way that you express yourself or see the world, what you're passionate about, those gifts, whatever that is, use it in service to help people. Even something like when I just started my YouTube channel, just offering free content, free value is service, right? And service is this magical frequency that activates things and amplifies things. So if you use gifts in service, your gifts get bigger. If you use your time in service, and you put your focus on I want to help people, opportunities arise, like you're it's going to pick up, momentum is going to happen. And then here I am sitting here like maybe 4 years after I started my YouTube channel and about 2.5 years after I started like the business completely self-sufficient, from any kind of 9 to 5 or anything like that, able to support myself and my family and live this life of what I've always dreamed that I would want.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I think that's really nice too because you're sharing with people too that, we can break free from that 9 to 5 job that we do. And, we do have to have that because pragmatically we can't, afford to just quit our job tomorrow and hope when we jump that leap. But I mean, that's good advice because it's telling people that, you keep doing this and you listen to what your inner guides are saying, you can get there and then you can live the life of abundance and make those choices for yourself. So
Right.
I love that message that you gave. So thank you.
Yeah, and listen to your community when you build one. What do they want? That's the key, right? There's a lot of clues along the way. It's like listen to your community, your audience of what they're asking for. That's a huge clue. And then the other clue is, maybe you guys have seen this too. It always seems like the ideal client is a past version of yourself, which means that the things that you struggled with so hard are going to be the people that you serve. So what did you struggle with? You know, like I struggled with PTSD and this hard childhood I told you about, very abusive. My father was very alcoholic, violent, and I had PTSD because of that, which turned into my own addiction problems, which turned into like all of these things. And then the religious trauma, it's like, okay, I have really struggled, but I've also overcome all of those things. And the people that come to me feel like a mirror version of me. Like they've also had a tough go at the beginning and they're working on, using rising from your dark night of the soul to alchemize that into a way to be of service, right? You can take that shadow and say, okay, what can I do with it? So I think a clue is what have you struggled with? Because that might be how you're here to serve.
Yeah, I believe that because I know things that I have struggled with as a kid, just different issues. My mom was a single mom, so you had some abandonment issues. You've had all these different things. So yes, as you're talking to people throughout the day, it's interesting the conversations that just organically appear that you have that opportunity to lend and, like you say, be of service, right? And
Mhm.
that was when we started this podcast. We were kind of nervous and we didn't really know, and we're like, what do we know? And then we kind of flourished from there. And then we first started off on our own, and then we started getting guests, and it's been amazing because we're always constantly learning different things through each guest that we get, or we're having the conversation and it resonates so much about, like what you're saying there is like, yeah, I've been through that. And, right now my brain has been this last probably month or so, where do I go next? Like, what do yeah, the podcast is great and we do all these YouTubes and this is wonderful, but what's my next step? Because I feel like I'm being pushed, and that's how I really feel is there's this inner push of there's something more, there's a next step. So can you maybe talk about how you figure out what that next step is? How do you listen to that push?
Oh gosh, that push is a soul nudge. It absolutely is. And a lot of people that are in the 9 to 5 get the nudge to leave. And if they don't listen to it, they'll find spirit just boom, nudges them right out and they'll end up laid off or something happens. Or because if it's no longer serving the version of you that you're becoming, it has to go, right? That's actually an ascension symptom called the purge, where the things that can't serve the new level you're rising into have to purge out of your life. And that's a very painful time to let go of things. And that looks like, can look like letting go of friendships and relationships or people that can't support you in that anymore, that are no longer good for you, habits, diet, jobs, everything. And when you're a business owner, sometimes it looks like letting go of parts of the business to make room for something new. So there's like this purge rebirth constantly happening, especially with starseeds over and over again. But the nudge that you're getting, that you're ready to serve on a bigger scale, right? You're ready to reach more people, or maybe it's about ready to go deeper with people, deeper into that. So I mean, I would really suggest, I have always been a big proponent of having, when you're an entrepreneur, it's really important to have a business mentor that speaks your language. Like having someone that understands, for me, I would need somebody that understands frequency and spirituality and all of that kind of things and speaks that language and can help to guide me with that. But of course, the most powerful thing is our own inner self and our own higher self. Now, for spirit guides, the spirit guide that's going to help you the most with decisions about career and human stuff like health, relationships, career, and all of that is always going to be your highest human self. So that's who I call on. So I would, set up a sacred space. I would call in my highest human self and I would channel, I would, telepathically have a conversation with them. I'm feeling like I'm being pushed to go deeper. because we don't have to figure this out alone. We have a huge spirit team, right? So it's like utilize that. I feel like I'm being pushed to do more or go deeper with people. Like, how can I take that next step? And you probably have a notebook somewhere with ideas that we get little downloads and we write things down and then we close the notebook and do nothing with it. So then they'll probably pop into your mind a little vision of the thing you wrote. Oh yeah, you told me I need to do this master class and that was going to be a great way to funnel people into like one-on-ones, more intimate containers with me. I forgot. Okay, that's what I was supposed to do. It's always like, what's on the back burner that they already told you haven't done yet? What's in the notebook? And if nothing, then let's download together. Let's talk to the highest human self inside of that sacred container, that sacred space, and channel. And that's where I'm just writing ideas and usually more than you'll ever need. And then you kind of just tune into which one feels the strongest, which one has the most life force in it, which one is like vibrating off the page at me.
True. True.
I thought maybe you had a question.
No, I'm just listening. You're very interesting to listen to. You have a lot of information, and I'm sure that our listeners are going to go, oh, and get these little, oh, there it is, there it is, there it is, right?
Little
And
aha moments.
Yeah.
we have lots of them in a day. We have a lot of
Yeah.
aha moments in the day. It's whether or not we're listening to those aha moments, really listening to them, right? And when we do, it's like you said, it's like, oh my God, yes, that's exactly what I'm looking. That's what I need now, right? That's going to take me to my next adventure, right?
Yep.
And it is an adventure.
Yeah. It's
is.
funny for me because I have a 9 to 5 job and I actually have taken on somebody else's way right now, sick. And so I've taken on some of their job, and a lot of my job that I've taken on of hers is about social media. So learning Canva and learning a whole bunch of different social media stuff, which I already knew because I've been doing it with our podcast. But it was interesting to me because I was like, okay, I hear you. I see what you're doing. I see how you're shifting me out of what I've been doing into something else to push me, right? And I'm getting that. And that's where I say I'm getting this soul push that's saying, you're just about done here. So you need to be waking up and listening more.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's divine orchestration when something crosses your path, like so random like that, and you get a feeling in your gut, usually like, okay, I got to get deeper into Canva because I need to get deeper into marketing and creating and getting myself out there, my face out there in front of people and my message. And yeah.
Yeah. That's been a big message that we need to do more of that, announce ourselves more sort of thing. But it's coming. It is definitely coming, and it's been lovely. The journey we've been on with this has been amazing. And like Kim said, meeting people like yourself and that educate us as we're going along too, and also stimulating us as we go along. So all that is good stuff because stimulation is good for you. It doesn't matter how it comes to you, right? So it's been it's wonderful, and we keep wanting to just do more and more of it, and learn more of like the Starseed sort of thing. I'm sure lots of people are interested in that to find out how to follow it and that too, because it is a very beautiful thing. It is a very beautiful way to go. So anyway,
I like the way that you said like that you're open to continuing to learn. Because if you keep that mentality of a forever student, like I'm an eternal student, then you never get into that weird attitude of like, I think sometimes when people get big, they can get into like a putting themselves up on a pedestal and they think they have all the answers. And it just is very egoic. There's even actually such a thing as ego channeling, where people actually aren't channeling from a pure source. They're channeling like ego, and you can start to feel it. And that can happen to people, and it almost feels like they sell out in a way. And that's because they didn't keep that humbleness, they didn't keep that authenticity, that rawness. They got too caught up in the what people think what people think of them, and they think of themselves as like a product in a way. And I think I really like what you're saying is like, I learn from every time I do an interview. I learn every time I even have a client and I just do a reading. I'm always learning so much deeply. I just did a group reading last night for my membership, and it was a Halloween theme. We normally wouldn't, but it was a Halloween. It's a month, it's a fun, spooky month. So I did this group reading about spooky incarnations, like spooky
oh,
that you've had, and each person got like a little mini reading about a spooky lifetime that they'd had. And like higher perspective always is how I like to come at things. So I gave them the spooky reading, but then I did the higher perspective of, okay, well, how can we help that now? How can we clear the karma of that? Or how can we help that version of you if they're still going? But
Mhm.
the things that I learned just from that about even what's out there in the universe or what's possible, or things like soul retrieval and what happens to a soul when they don't cross over, and like all of these incredible things, it's like I love that. I just want to keep learning and learning, and you could never learn it all. There's
No.
too much out there. Well, we won't. You just
Uh,
couldn't. It's like the
yeah.
journey never ends of healing, and the journey never ends of learning how big this multiverse is, and like everything that you can imagine actually exists out there somewhere. It's just wild, and it just keeps me humble and keeps me excited.
As I think too, if people ask me all the time, why do you ask so many questions? You're always asking questions. And my answer is always because I want to know. It's something else I don't know. And if I don't ask the question, you're not going to explain it to me. Right? Yeah, I can probably read up about it, whatever, but I want your definition of how you feel about that. Right? Because every time you get somebody else's clarity and how they get it, it's just imprinted deeply or more deep inside of you, right? So it's easier for you to grasp the next step of where you need to transfer with that. So, but I am a question person. I have to know. You seem like you are too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a seeker. I'm a seeker.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
Seeker for sure. That's a better word.
Myself as well. Like I'm just curious about
You are,
life
yeah.
and things, and I just feel like when I talk to people, I get, especially people that are along the same path as me, that are part of my soul tribe, as I would call it. I learn things from them, and then it makes me want to go out and seek and be more
Yes.
curious about
Yeah.
that kind of thing, and where is that going to lead me, and how does that impact me into my
Yeah.
life?
How come that's coming to
And
me now?
yeah,
Sort of thing. And what
because
does I need to
I
know?
believe, like
Right.
you said, it's divine intervention, and it just comes when it's supposed to
Yeah.
come.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
Fair enough. Well done.
yeah, thanks. Well, I joined this group because I was really feeling like I needed a sense of community and things like that. And so this group that I joined, one is a witch and one is a medium. And then so they're talking a lot about the spiritual stuff and lots of things I know, but there's always something that I don't know in every session that I've been going to. So which leads to where you were saying with a business mentor or those kind of things. And it's been really interesting because they were talking about doing divination, but something that you wouldn't normally do. And so the one lady laughed and she goes, "Well, when I'm in the shower, and your hair comes out, and then I put it on the wall, and then you kind of do hair divination." I'm like, "Oh, I'm totally going to try that." So I have, because I feel like it's so good to expand our minds into something different.
It's true.
Mhm.
It's very true.
And it's like that's something I forget which one of you said earlier that you're always receiving these little signs, but are you listening? I think you might have said that, Kim. And that's exactly what you're saying now with the hair. So that just clicked for a moment for me. I just had this click where it's like we are constantly in conversation with the universe, the spirit realm. We're constantly in conversation. Everything means something, but are you listening? Right? Everything, like getting caught in a traffic jam could have saved your life 7 minutes down the road from having a car accident, but you don't know. You just don't know, right? And it's like it's all this massive like chessboard of pieces, this divine orchestration of moving us in these pieces all around in accordance to our soul contracts and the lessons that we've chosen that we want to learn. And it's just like all of the signs, they're not just there when you're looking for them, they're always there. And if we can change the way that we go about our day, because we're very much in our masculine energy, especially women. Randomly, we've been taught we have to be go, go, go. I've got to be productive. I've got a to-do list. It's this time. Oh my God. Oh my God. We're up here all day long. We're in our brains and in our to-do list.
Yeah.
And when we try to come out of that into the body and like look around for a second, like, oh, like, was that picture always there? Like, look around at your environment and be like, oh, I'm really here in this body. Like, whoa, hold on a second. You have that moment where you're like, here. that's when you start to see around you what's real, what the magic around you, right? Like the signs and the people, and you hear the conversations that strangers are having that you know are for you to overhear. And you have all the song on the radio says the lyrics of exactly what you needed to hear. You see the feathers, you see the 1111, you start to see all the signs because you're present and you're in that moment. That's how we listen. We be here in the moment.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that was just something that really clicked together when you said that.
Well, thank you. Because, yeah, and I think that's right. Because I often say that to myself, like, I'll get behind somebody slow driving to work, and it's like I'm running behind as it is. And I'm like, okay, you don't know why, but there's a reason that you need to be back here right now. So just, you know what? Take a deep breath and just keep going on. And maybe you figure it out and maybe you don't. Like sometimes we never know why why we were slowed down. And I know for myself, like, I'm generally a very planned person and I have a set schedule and I like organization. And just this last little while, I've been so scattered and late for things and
Me too.
unorganized. And I'm like,
All over the
okay,
place.
I need to tap into that and find out, what is this trying to tell me for myself? Why have I flipped so much to this other side to, be so scattered? What is it trying to tell me? Is it trying to tell me I just need a break?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I was just like, what if that gross hair that was on the shower wall was always a message? It was always like, I just had this like vision of like these glowing, like this gross hair, like as we all put it on the
Right.
but it starts to like glow with like a divine pattern of sacred geometry or a message. And it was always there, but you didn't know until someone told you. And then now you're looking at it, but it was always there. So it's just like that. It's like, what if it's all something? That's just such a cool way to live. And if we live from that place, there's no reason for fear,
that's right.
right? There's nothing to fear because if it's meant for you, it will find you. And if it's not, don't worry about it. It's like if we're truly divinely orchestrated by our higher selves or higher beings or whatever someone believes in, then what are we ever worried about? You couldn't be late. It's all just divine orchestration because that was what was supposed to happen. It's like that's pretty cool thought to think like that we can just enjoy the ride instead of trying to micromanage the universe and lose ourselves in that, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think we often do that as humans, right?
Yeah.
We just allow that to take over. And I find it so interesting when I've been talking to people about different things, and I don't really watch the news because I don't like the negativity. So when people bring the news, so I don't have to watch it, and then they
'Cause
start
people
in
do.
on some of these things that are so negative, and I'm just like, I'm good, you know.
Mhm.
I no, thank you.
Mhm.
Like, right, I get up and leave, or I just kind of tune out into my own
Phase out.
thing because I'm not interested. It's like when people send you TikToks and it's just like, no,
Why?
no, I'm just going to scroll past that because it's not where I want to live from. I don't want to live in that fear based. And that's how I find some of that stuff out
Oh
there.
yeah, very much so. Very much.
Mhm. We agree. It's like, okay, so like the collective timeline is experiencing that, the news and all of that's their reality. Fine. And I have to engage with the collective timeline when I go to the grocery store or when I leave my house or when I had a 9 to 5, that too. But when I'm here in my home, in my sacred space, I can live on my own higher reality in my own higher timeline. And if people realize that we really are the creators of our own realities, we truly are. And if people start to like actually do something with that knowledge, with intention, to live in a higher frequency, to change, the things in their home to something, filter your water for first things. Like that's the very first thing that you could do for yourself is filter out the crap out of your water, get a really good filter and start, like being more mindful of the things that you put into your body. And then because it's all about consumption, it's if you can eat, drink, but you can also consume what you watch. It's all consumption, right? So what are you taking in through your eyes? What are you taking into your heart? What are you taking into your body? And like really start to take into account that frequency is everything. Everything's made of it. And if we can just try to keep ourselves above neutral, at neutral or just above, then we're going to already be a much higher timeline than the collective. And so I think that like I think when I see stuff like that, I'm always like, oh, I feel bad. I have compassion because that's the reality that they are really living in. Like that's someone's real reality, but it isn't mine.
That's
You
right.
know, I'm the sacred observer of that, and I am acting in service to those people. Everything like about my life is devoted to service, you know, being of service in any way that I can, but I don't have to suffer alongside them because that helps nobody. And I can be an example of a sovereign creator on their higher timeline. And now all of a sudden, like that's new earth. That's a new earth leader showing, okay, I can unplug from the 9 to 5 and support myself. I don't have to eat your toxic McDonald's.
Excuse
I
me.
don't have to, you know, like participate in the fear mongering of news. I can live in a new way and I can be an example of there's a different way to do Earth and it feels much better and it's a lot nicer up here. Like, come and join me, but not turn our backs. We don't want to turn our backs on what's going on to other humans because that's their reality and that would be bypassing. We don't want to bypass anybody. So I think of it as being like the sacred witness. I can witness what you're going through and have so much compassion and then continue to invite you into this higher reality over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It made me think like with my husband and we raised our granddaughter. And so it's interesting because I shift into different things and then they're like, why are you making your own like air freshener? I'm like, because like
I can.
there's so many toxins and do you know how much your body takes that in? And I get on my little soapbox for a minute and then I'm like, use it, don't use it. Here's why I eat some foods or don't go to some places to eat food because of these reasons.
Uh-huh.
Do it, don't do it, do you. But I'm
Mhm.
also going to do me, but maybe, then I see little shifts with them, right? Oh, now I'm not going to go to there as often, or, oh, maybe I am going to pay attention to what you said of why my body is doing these different things. So I love what you said, right? Where we're helping, these
Mhm.
people find their path.
Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And it's not a forceful thing. It just can't be. You can't force people to change, but you can love them to
Yeah.
change. Love
Yeah.
them into it. Mhm.
Yeah. Love them where they're at, right? So.
And hope to change. No.
Sometimes, yes. So,
Sometimes.
so if you had a final thought to leave with our followers, what would it be?
Ooh. Oh, there's so many. Like, it's hard to do. I would say, okay, so I would say if somebody out there, a little starseed soul, I can just feel you listening to this, and you're getting up and you're going to your job that drains your life force every day, and you feel like you're on this hamster wheel, and you can't get off it, and you don't know what to do. The first step is to discover what your gifts are and what your mission is here. And I would love to support people into that because I always say like there's 4 steps to unplugging from the matrix and fully stepping into your sovereignty. And that is discover what your gifts are, master those gifts to a point of great confidence, start using those gifts in service in whatever way, many ways that you can, because service will activate it. And then you build your spiritual empire, your soul empire. And so the first step is always discovery. Let's find out what your gifts are. Let's find out what you're here to do, who your Star Nations alliance is. That's a really cool one. It's like your Star Nations alliance is the galactic beings as a starseed, if you're a starseed, the galactic beings or maybe just the higher dimensional beings that you are here to represent, be an ambassador of, anchor in the frequency of. I had someone that I was working with a day or two ago, and it was her Star Nations Alliance was the angelic realms. She was an earth angel, and she was absolutely here to bring angelic frequency through in different ways in her energy healings, in her mentorship, in her kids' books. She was going to teach children about how to call on their guardian angels when they're scared or when they're going through. Imagine having that information as a child. It changes
Yeah.
everything, right? Or to help adults to step into their own power as these earth angels and empaths learning how to shield and all these things. So it's like you have a Star Nations alliance or a higher dimensional alliance that you're working with, sometimes more than one. And who is that? Like who's coming through to support you because that is directly going to affect what your gifts are that show up and what your specific mission is and who you're here to serve. And so I would just say, if anybody is super resonating with this and knows, like getting this deep knowing that that's for them, to find this information out and to start going down that path, to come and find me over on Instagram, Starseed Academy with the blue check. Come and get me, come DM me, and I can kind of tune into what's the best place to start, because that's where you start, is the discovery, and then we start to master the gifts together. And that's, I have a lot of training certified courses on that. Psychic Light is starting October 30th, and that's where I'm teaching people language of the clairs, all the different forms of channeling, plus light language, Akashic records, astral travel. It's a huge certification. And that's a great way to master your gifts, and it sets people up to start taking clients. Right? Okay, so now I feel confident enough. Let me start this too. That's the beginnings of everything. That's how everyone starts, right? And then before you know it, you're on this, multi-tiered business ladder of offer suite that you've got going on, and you've got your own empire. So it all starts with just the choice to do something different that day. And so I would say, anybody that's feeling a nudge, come and do something different and come and reach out to me.
Wonderful. And so you're on Instagram and YouTube. So do you have any other places that people can find you?
Those are my two main platforms. Yeah.
Okay.
So those are the two best places to interact with me.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Well, it's been such a pleasure having you on. I know we've both learned so much through this. And so
We have.
really appreciate you coming on the podcast with us and sharing your information with our followers. We'd love to have you back another time to dig deeper into, a specific subject or something.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
thank you so
That
much.
would be great. Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, well, wonderful. So thank you so much. And everybody else, tune in next time.
You bet.